Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Sport This Week video. And in today's video I've got basketball, tennis, ice hockey, darts, cricket, NFL, UFC, boxing and football news. If you are new around here though and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do need like video, and let's get straight into it. So got the mention of a new sport there, we'll get onto that in a moment. But we're going to start off with the basketball news. So Celtics lost 123 to 111 versus Nuggets. Lakers won 121 to 115 versus Hornets. Warriors won 143 to 141 versus Hawks. Heat won 110 to 100 versus Clippers. Celtics lost 150 to 117 versus Thunder. Lakers won 112 to 109 versus Heat. Warriors lost 122 to 119 versus Pistons. Celtics won 124 to 95 versus Mavericks. Heat won 104 to 96 versus Suns. Lakers won 130 to 114 versus Hawks. Heat won 121 to 116 versus Spurs. Warriors lost 115 to 101 versus Magic. Lakers won 136 to 134 versus Kings, and Heat lost 102 to 101 versus Nets. And that is all of the basketball news. Moving on to tennis news now, whereas the United Cup, where Zverev lost 2-0 versus Fritz. It was also the Adelaide International, where Djokovic and Pospisil lost 2-1 versus Berkic and Escobar. Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus Goffin. Nadal lost 2-1 versus De Minaur. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Bencic. Medvedev won via retirement versus Sonego. Kontaveit lost 2-1 versus Zeng. Zakari won 2-0 versus Mertens. It was also the Auckland Open, where Raducanu won 2-1 versus Fruhvirtova. Djokovic won 2-0 versus Lestien. Tsitsipas and Zakari won 2-0 versus Gertz and Flipkins. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Trevisan. Medvedev won 2-0 versus Kekmanovic. Tsitsipas won 2-1 versus Koric. Sakari won 2-0 versus Martic. Swiatek and Hurkacz won 2-0 versus Musetti and Rostello. Tsitsipas won 2-0 and Sakari won 2-0 versus Gogjo and Martic. Djokovic won 2-0 versus Halis. Raducanu lost via retirement versus Kuzmova. Jabeur won 2-0 versus Kirsteya. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Pegula. Medvedev won 2-0 versus Kachchanov. Jabeur won 2-0 versus Kostyuk. Sakari lost 2-1 versus Trevisan. Djokovic won 2-0 versus Shapovalov. Tsitsipas won 2-1 versus Berrettini. Jabeur lost 2-1 versus Noskova. Djokovic won 2-0 versus Medvedev. USA won 4-0 versus Italy to win the United Cup. Glasspool and Helio Vara won 2-0 versus Murray and Venus to win the men's doubles Adelaide International. Sabalenka won 2-0 versus Masarova to win the Auckland Open. To win the women's singles Adelaide International. Gauff won 2-0 versus Masarova to win the Auckland Open. Djokovic won 2-1 versus Korda to win the men's singles Adelaide International. And that is all the tennis news. Moving on to the ice hockey news now. Bruins won 2-1 versus Penguins. Maple Leafs lost 6-5 versus Blues. Canadiens lost 6-3 versus Predators. Red Wings lost 5-1 versus Devils. Canadiens lost 4-1 versus Rangers. Maple Leafs lost 5-1 versus Krakens. Bruins won 5-2 versus Kings. Red Wings lost 3-2 versus Panthers. Maple Leafs won 4-1 versus Red Wings. Canadiens won 5-4 versus Blues. And Bruins won 4-2 versus Sharks. And that is all the ice hockey news. Moving on to now the new sport, which is darts, which I thought now would be a good time to start to speak about. And so the start of this week, Smith won 6-2 versus Clemens, and Van Gogh won 6-0 versus Van der Berge, and Smith won 7-4 versus Van Gogh to win the World Darts Championships. And I mean, in what a fashion, a crazy match, and a big congratulations to Michael Smith, especially in the way he did it, a very impressive way of winning. And now we're going to be speaking about darts as well. And now we're going to be moving on to the NFL news. Chiefs won 31-13 versus Raiders. Dolphins won 11-6 versus Jets. Buccaneers won 30-17 versus Falcons. Patriots won 35-23 versus Bills. And Rams lost 19-16 versus Seahawks. And that is all the NFL news. Moving on to the cricket news now. India won by 2 runs versus Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka won by 16 runs versus India. New Zealand drew versus Pakistan, and Australia drew versus South Africa. And that is all the cricket news. Moving on to the football news now. Rangers drew 2-2 versus Celtic. Brentford won 3-1 versus Liverpool. Arsenal drew 0-0 versus Newcastle. Brighton won 4-1 versus Everton. Fulham won 1-0 versus Leicester. Man U won 3-0 versus Bournemouth. Shade has joined Brentford. England has joined Spurs. Inter won 1-0 versus Napoli. Forest won 1-0 versus Southampton. Leeds drew 2-2 versus West Ham. Villa drew 1-1 versus Wolves. Spurs won 4-0 versus Palace. Badiashile has joined Chelsea. Nobbs has joined Villa. Man City won 1-0 versus Chelsea. Blind has joined Bayern. Butland has joined Man U. Man U won 3-1 versus Everton. Connolly has joined Hull. Brook has joined Coventry. Fofana has joined Chelsea. Cool has joined Arsenal. Deschamps has signed a new contract with France until 2026. Villarreal won 2-1 versus Real Madrid. Spurs won 1-0 versus Portsmouth. Southampton won 2-1 versus Palace. Leicester won 1-0 versus Gillingham. Burnley won 4-2 versus Bournemouth. Fulham won 2-0 versus Hull. Brighton won 5-1 versus Middlesbrough. Juventus won 1-0 versus Udinese. Inter drew 2-2 versus Monza. Liverpool drew 2-2 versus Wolves. Sheffield Wednesday won 1-0 versus Newcastle. West Ham won 1-0 versus Brentford. Man City won 4-0 versus Chelsea. Leeds drew 2-2 versus Cardiff. Stevenage won 1-0 versus Villa. Milan drew 2-2 versus Roma. And Barcelona won 1-0 versus Atletico Madrid. And that is all of the football news. Moving on to the boxing news now. Serrano versus Cruz. Baumgartner versus Met Khaled. Hitchens versus Borza. Seldin versus Matti. Nicholson versus Alvarez. Ali versus Matic. Aponte versus Rivera, and Maderas versus Madera will fight on the 4th of February. Carrington will fight on the 14th of January. Cully has signed a new deal with Matchroom. Esserman versus Congo. Clark, Forrest versus Bachetta, and Harris will fight on the 21st of January. Dennis has pulled out his fight with KSI, which kind of everybody thought would happen, and did end up happening. And now KSI will be fighting FaZe Temp on the 14th of January, which, I mean, isn't the best replacement opponent, but isn't a terrible one either. Not as bad as what Swarms was, but yeah, I've heard something about Joe Fournier being the option to fight KSI. This was a little bit before this got announced and all this happened, but I mean, I would have preferred to watch that fight, but obviously that's not happening, and maybe Slim or King Kenny could have been better options on the YouTube side of things, but you know, we got this, and it's not really a bad fight, and so it's still interesting to see what happens, and I'll be doing my prediction for that later this week. Rocha will fight Young on the 20th of January. Andre won by unanimous decision versus Nicholson, which I did predict right. Villa won by majority decision versus Ellis, which I didn't predict right, was a big upset to be fair. Ennis won by unanimous decision versus Chukazian to become IBF interim world welterweight champion, which I did predict right. Davis won via TKO versus in round 9 versus Garcia to remain WBA lightweight champion, which I did predict right, and a very dominant performance for him, setting up nicely for the Ryan Garcia fight, hopefully now in April is what I'm hearing. And yeah, so Shigeoka versus Valadares ended in a no contest, which is a shame because it was ended in a head class, and of course no contest is just no fun for anybody really. Jerusalem won via TKO in round 2 versus Taniguchi to become WBO world minimum weight champion, which I did predict right. And yeah, now we're moving on to the last sport, which is kind of a UFC/MMA crossover, and that's just because a bit of MMA news which isn't UFC related, which I kind of wanted to talk about. Vettori will fight Dolidze on the 18th of March, and Della Maddalena will fight Brown on the 12th of February, which is kind of the UFC side of things. And then the MMA bit of news is that Paul has signed a multi-year contract with the PFL, which is big news and big for both the company and for him. And it seems like there's some big fights that will be in the making with this big Nate Diaz fight that might be happening. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, if you are new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do need, like the video, and thanks for watching.